guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today we are going to be getting into some amazing book recommendations, if I do say so myself, based on movies. So if you've seen some of these popular movies recently and you're like, wait, I would love that, but I'm a reader girl and I want to read that as a book, I got you. Every single time I'm reading a book and it reminds me of a movie, or even if I read a synopsis of a book and it reminds me of a movie, I write it down in my notes, and once we get up to 16 of those, I make one of these videos to share with you guys. Now there's only going to be 12 shared on my main channel. If you want the 4 bonus recommendations, you're gonna have to go over to Patreon. Thank you so much to my patrons for supporting me and supporting this channel, making it so I'm able to keep making these videos for you guys. It honestly is such a huge time commitment outside of my full-time job and running my businesses. Like, it is a lot. So my patrons, you really enable me to do that. And you guys get bonus content for yourself as well. So you're not just donating to the poor, you know. Go get you your bonus recs if you wish. Patreon's always linked down below. The tier that gets access to all the bonus recs is literally $3.99. You don't have to sign up for the monthly. You can pay it one time and then boom, you get access to all the extra recs. But enough self-promo. Let's go ahead and jump into, if you like this movie, here's a book to read, or vice versa. If you've already read some of these books and you're wondering if you'd like the movie, I would say it works in reverse as well. Let's start out with a really widely loved duo, okay? Nosferatu. Everybody's fucking talking about it. The A24 horror bro letterboxed baddies love Nosferatu. I get it, okay? I get it. The cinematography, okay? The imagery, I get it. But for me personally, I'm gonna sound really like dumb here, but I don't really care. If I wanted to look at beautiful imagery, I would just scroll on Pinterest. Like, if I'm watching a movie, I need action, I need twists, I need some sort of intrigue or something happening. I didn't really get that from Nosferatu, and I fell asleep, I fear. So while it's beautiful and meaningful and it's a retelling of a classic story, and I totally get that, it didn't hit for me personally in the way that it seems to hit for everyone else. And in this book, I will recommend you, if you liked Nosferatu, I had the same exact experience where I enjoyed the book. I recognize that it is beautiful and it is well written and it is incredibly crafted. However, everyone else seems to like it so much more than I do. And that is Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is about one of Dracula's wives. And yes, I say one of, because she is one of many. So while Nosferatu is like a retelling of Dracula in a way, Dowry of Blood kind of expands upon who Dracula is as a character, specifically what he is like to his partner who he has this mysterious holdover. In Dowry of Blood, it's extremely character driven. It's the same exact gothic feel of Nosferatu, but we are driving the story through our main character who's grappling with the fact of her unbreakable attachment to this person who is essentially evil and does not treat her well. It's an allegory for a emotionally abusive, codependent relationship, and I think that metaphor is explored with depth and it's done really well. But for some reason, emotionally, it just didn't hit for me in the same way that Nosferatu just kind of was like, okay, I get it, and what? So I think if you like one, you'll like the other. I think both of them are good in merit, but subjectively, not the most enjoyable for me personally. Next up, I recently watched this French horror film called Infested. This was directed by the director who's about to handle the continuation of the Final Destination series. I fucking love Final Destination horror movies. I'm obsessed with them. That's been one of my favorite horror series since I was a kid. I remember watching them, and then every time I would get on a roller coaster, or every time I would see one of those like log trucks or look at a tanning booth, I would be like, oh my God, Final Destination core. So I'm really excited for more Final Destination movies, and my boyfriend and I watched Infested to see the director's work and kind of what we can expect, and we really liked it. This movie, obviously it's in French, so you have to read the subtitles, but that didn't even really bother me, and usually I'm not a subtitles on type of girl because the story was so compelling. It is spider horror. If you like spiders and bugs and creepy crawlies and that's the kind of shit that gets you, this horror is gonna get you good. And if you like spidery horror movies, then you would love Spider Sight by Tirza M.M. Hawkins. I freaking love this book. It is such a hidden gem. Nobody talks about it. It's about this little girl who is seeing spiders everywhere, and nobody else sees the spiders. They think that she is making it up in her head completely until people around her start dropping dead of spider bites, and it leads us to assume that these spiders must be real. What are we gonna do about it? Nobody else can see them. Are they gonna take over the world? Read Spider Sight and find out. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I had so much fun with it. Bugs freak me out so much, and it freaked me out in the same exact way that watching this movie did. It's incredible how the imagery of this book was just as vivid as seeing it on the screen. Next up, this is a little bit of an older movie, but if you like Ready or Not, which is a movie about a rich man's new fiance getting, I guess, introduced or indoctrinated into his wealthy family in a very sinister way, then you should read Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a really short, really easy to read horror novella about a girl who goes home with her boyfriend for the Easter holiday, and he's taking her to his rich family's estate where a rich man's game begins, and people start to get picked off one by one by one. Our main character is just trying to survive, much like the main character in Ready or Not. I absolutely loved both of these. They have very, very similar themes. There's crazy gore in both of them, which I loved so much. Really creative kills in both of them as well. If you like the horror game element, you're going to love either of these. And I know Ready or Not is pretty popular for like the badass final girl moment that it has at the end. There's something really similar in Guillotine, so they remind me of each other instantly. Speaking of Final Destination, if you like the Final Destination movies, then I have the perfect book rec for you. I mentioned the Final Destination movies earlier, but if you don't know what the plot is, basically a horrible event happens and people are supposed to die. Like, this is supposed to take out a ton of people, but they end up cheating death and somehow surviving. So then the world is constantly trying to right itself by killing off these people in increasingly weird and gruesome ways. It's kind of the message of you cannot escape your fate. If you like Final Destination, you gotta read this. Like, you got to read this. I have recommended this book so many times, but never in this context, and I'm excited to see who reads it because of this comparison, because this would get me. If I haven't already convinced you, you have to read How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive by Craig DeLuey. This was my favorite book of last year, and it is phenomenal. It's about this horror director, okay? He's making a horror movie and he's doing it with this special camera. The thing about this camera is that it captured a traumatic event that killed basically the entire cast and crew of the movie in one foul swoop. A plane crashed during one of the scenes and it took out literally everyone. Everyone's death was captured on this camera, and now this camera has been impacted in a way where that's what it's gonna do. If you get captured on the film in the camera's lens, you are going to die. And we see that play out in very similar, like, dramatic, gory ways as like what happens in Final Destination. There are some added elements in here, like exploring different horror tropes. There's beautiful meta commentary on the horror genre, like just about the concept of a final girl, because we're not only following the horror director, we're also following his final girl who is trying to outrun death, literally. Little does she know, her life is at risk. The character dynamics in here are amazing. It's entertaining and fast-paced the whole way through. I'm obsessed with it. I literally have a lip print on my book because I kissed it, I think, when I was filming my best books of the year video, because I love it that much. Okay, let's take a little detour from horror for a second and talk about Baby Girl. I have some very controversial thoughts. I personally did not enjoy this movie. I really did not like it. First of all, I was sold on this idea that it was gonna be the fantasy of a submissive lady, like a very powerful, independent, high-powered woman who's secretly a submissive girl behind closed doors. Oh wow, what a subversion. How sexy is that? I love to see that. Girl, that is not what they gave us. They gave us some weird humiliation shit that wasn't even kinky to me. It was giving very vanilla. I literally enjoyed 50 Shades of Grey more than I enjoyed Baby Girl. I don't think it was kinky enough. I don't think the storyline made any sense. I think the things that they chose to focus on were completely confused and all over the place. The trauma rep and weird like half-baked attachment theory that they were trying to put in there was clearly not well researched or developed at all. That's just my opinion. And honestly, as soon as I picked up this book, all I could think of was, oh my god, this is what they tried to do in Baby Girl, but it's actually done really well. And I love this book and I highly recommend it, whether you like Baby Girl or not. My Husband by Maud Ventura. Okay, in this book, we are following possibly the most submissive, codependent woman alive. Okay, she wants to do whatever she can do to please her husband. She exists essentially to please her husband. And she is trauma and anxious attachment personified. We get a little bit of her rearing and her background that kind of informs us of what's going on here in her attachment dynamic, similar like how we got that in Baby Girl. But the intention of My Husband is not to be sexual and like turning you on, which I think was how Baby Girl was marketed, which I think was really weird to do it that way and then kind of trap people in this weird like reliving your trauma thing. No, we are reading this and we know that we are supposed to be horrified and not necessarily enamored with this relationship that we're viewing here. But our main character is absolutely enamored with it. She's so turned on. She loves it. She lives for it. And she's one of the wildest, wackiest characters I've ever followed. It's literary fiction, but it is not heavy. It's very, very easy to read because our main character is so interesting and entertaining, and there are some wild twists at the end. I would not call this a thriller, but the end is giving thriller with the twist. It was crazy. The epilogue shook me to my core. Next up, I recently watched a horror movie called Deadstream, which is a play on the word live stream, and we are following this YouTuber who goes to explore haunted locations on live streams, and he basically gets stalked and haunted by ghosts at this creepy location while he's on live stream. We watch the whole thing as if we're like streaming on YouTube. It is so funny. You see like the comments going up the whole time. There's meta commentary on parasocial relationships and what it's like to be on the internet and like horror culture on the internet. It was so funny, so entertaining, so scary. Also, I really like the horror in this movie. If you have Shudder, you should definitely watch it. And if that sounds good to you and you want that in book form, you should read Unboxed by Brianna Morgan. I love this little novella slash play thing. Yeah, it's definitely more of a play, but if you want to read it just as a novella, like that's what I did. And it's about a YouTuber who gets a box from the dark web, and he's kind of willing to do whatever it takes for fame on the internet, even if it means doing something really dangerous, like the main character in Deadstream is going to this dangerous location, risking his life for the views. Our main character in this book does the same thing, and when he unboxes this mystery box, it's wild, and we kind of get that commentary of what's happening on the internet as well. They're very, very similar concepts. Both are so much spooky fun. Next up, I have a combo for you. Okay, so imagine Coraline. Very classic. We love Coraline over here. Coraline meets Poltergeist. Poltergeist is one of my favorite movies. I have a tattoo for it on the back of my arm. I am obsessed with Poltergeist. So this is kind of like my perfect horror situation here. If you are like me and you like the idea of creepy children being possessed, being taken, and there being an element of family trauma to it all, you have to read Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. This was not only one of my best audiobooks of last year, but just one of my favorite books of last year, period. It's about this little girl, and in her closet lives an entity called Other Mommy, very similar to the concept in Coraline. And when she starts to tell her parents about this mysterious other mommy, they're like, oh my god, we literally have to call someone in to exorcise this demon from our house and get it away from our daughter. So they go on a very Poltergeist-esque journey, calling in the experts to try to get rid of this demon, and along the way unpacking the dynamic of their family. It is absolutely incredible. Talk about horror as a metaphor for trauma. Like, this does it flawlessly. I'm obsessed with this book. Don't ever talk shit about this book around me. I will kill you. And that's a threat. I will. I love it so much. If you're an eldest daughter, you need to read this. If you have divorced parents, you need to read this. If you like either of those movies, you need to read this. Basically, you need to read Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. It's incredible. Next up, let's talk about my favorite movie of 2024, and that was The Substance. Oh my god, The Substance. If The Substance doesn't win an Oscar, I don't know what I'm going to do. Demi deserves it. And Little Pilaf, Little Mouse. Oh my god, if y'all don't know, Demi Moore has a little tiny chihuahua named Pilaf, and she takes him around everywhere with her, and I need to see a horror queen representing the plight of women in Hollywood accept her first award with a chihuahua on stage. And like, the way that this would do so much for the horror genre. I could talk about this forever. I love The Substance. It's all about breaking down the beauty standard, ageism, misogyny, all of the different things that are working against women in Hollywood. We're following Elizabeth Sparkle, who takes the substance in order to keep a shred of her youth and her beauty, but at what cost? Thus, horror ensues and everything hits the fan. If you like The Substance, you should read Youth Juice by E.K. Sathu. I'm sure I'm not the first person to make this comparison. As I was reading it, The Substance was all I could think about. We are following a woman who works at this like skincare cosmetics company, and one of the higher ups is like, hey, why don't you try out this new skincare solution? It's called Youth Juice. And she tries it out. It starts to vastly improve her appearance. Like, things that she never thought she would be able to change about herself, that she's always been insecure about, suddenly are resolved. But at what cost? Similar to The Substance, it kind of asks that same question. The Substance takes it in the route of body horror to the extreme, which very much appeals to my taste. I loved that. Youth Juice explores this theme more through a lens of missing women. All of the young interns around the office start to go missing, and we are trying to figure out the connection between this magical youth juice substance and the missing women popping up around the office, or I guess disappearing around the office. It has that same like girly pop kind of feel as The Substance, and very, very similar commentary. But I would say Youth Juice is definitely lighter and easier to digest than The Substance. I definitely prefer The Substance, but they remind me of each other so much. If you like one, you will definitely like the other. Next up, let's talk about a movie that literally is just about to come out. I have not seen it yet. I actually am going to see it this upcoming weekend, but I feel good about giving this recommendation before I even see it, because I'm just recommending this on vibes alone. And this is such a good book that I literally don't even care about the movie. I just want you guys to read this book. So I first started seeing the trailer for Companion, and I thought it was going to be about this abusive relationship between this man and this woman, where they are so toxically enmeshed and codependent that they can get each other to do increasingly horrible things. And I liked that concept and I wanted to see the movie, but in the extended trailer, it's been revealed to us that this is not a human-human relationship. This is a tech bro and his AI female assistant robot woman. And she is kind of waking up to the fucked upness of the relationship she has with her master. And I fear she's going to do something about it. At least that's what the trailer inspires. I cannot wait to see this movie. It's getting phenomenal reviews. I think it has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is crazy. And I need some commentary on AI because I fucking hate AI. Can we just leave it in the dust? Can we leave it in the dust, please? If you like the sound of that, then you should read Annie Bot by Sierra Greer. This is about a woman who is an AI assistant, and her name is Annie Bot, and she starts to become maybe too intelligent for her own good. She starts to become aware of not only the relationship between her and her master slash creator, but she also becomes aware of the patriarchal society in which she is living and how she fits into that. And she starts to question her existence and rebel against it. It is a beautifully done, character-driven sci-fi thriller. I am obsessed with it. Originally, I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, but with the amount that I think about this book, I think I want to just change my rating to a 5-star. It was pretty perfect. I don't know why I didn't give it 5 stars to begin with. I am amending my rating now and letting you guys know you have to read this book. The amount of times I talk about this book to people in real life is just crazy. Please read it. We talked about Josh Malerman earlier whenever I recommended Incidents Around the House, but now we're actually going to talk about one of his movie adaptations, which is Bird Box. If you like Bird Box, which is the Sandra Bullock movie where she was blindfolded and she had to blindfold everybody because if you see this invisible monster thingy, you go crazy and you kill everybody. That kind of like post-apocalyptic horror moment. If you like Bird Box, you should read this because I think this is better. And that is Your Shadow Half Remains by Sunny Moraine. In this post-apocalyptic horror world, we are not just following these invisible monsters you have to blind yourself against. The pandemic that we're in is only spread by making direct eye contact with someone. So you can still look around. You don't necessarily have to be blindfolded, but if you make eye contact with someone, you're gonna go crazy, kill them, and kill yourself. It speaks to the deterioration of connection in our world with the rise of social media and other things that disconnect us, like the pandemic, and the rapid sense of individualization that has taken over Western culture. Yes, it's horrifying and it has the same trippy fast pace of Bird Box, but I think the commentary here is much more relevant for the age that we're living in. It's very similar, but it does things in a different enough way, and I definitely think I prefer this one. So if you like one, you'll definitely like this one as well. This next movie, I don't think I've ever cried harder, and that is My Old Ass. Oh my god. This is a comedy. This is literally a sapphic comedy about a girl discovering things about her sexuality, herself, her life, her love, her everything. Okay, she's like early 20s and she's figuring herself out, and she does a drug, and a part of her trip is her future self, her like 40-something-year-old self, comes to her and is like, hey girl, here's the advice that I have for you. So it's about the relationship that develops between our young main character and her future self. Her future self is also played by Aubrey Plaza, and I'm obsessed with Aubrey Plaza. I would literally die for her. I love her. I'm pretty sure every queer woman on earth is obsessed with Aubrey Plaza, so I'm not unique in the sense of saying that, but it resonates. So throughout the movie, we are puzzle piecing together what happens later in our main character's life based on the decisions that she's making now and how we know our later version of our main character is feeling about them. I hope that makes sense. But it's a very emotional movie. It's a lot about attachment and getting to know yourself within the context of attachment relationships. It says a lot about regrets and having that like coming of age moment in your 20s, what you would do to go back and change it, what is important to you then versus later. And it reminded me of one of my all-time favorite books, which is Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor. In this book, we're following our main character, Una, who is born on New Year's Eve. And when the clock strikes for the year 1990 to be rung in, she's supposed to be turning 18. However, she wakes up and she is 50. And she's like, what is going on? And from her 18th birthday on, she lives every single year of her life completely out of order. So she'll wake up thinking she's gonna turn 18, she turns 50. The next birthday, when she would expect to turn 51 or 19, she wakes up and she's 23. Like, every single year of her life is just jumbled, and we get to see the butterfly effect of what happens as she shifts things based on making different decisions in different years of her life. She also starts leaving little notes and trying to guide her past self based on what she knows of the future. And all of these things, all of this deep development of herself comes to light. It is so emotional. I ugly cried reading this book the same way that I ugly cried watching this movie. They're both so good and have such similar themes. If you like one, you will love the other. And the last movie book combo I want to recommend to you guys is based on Heretic. This is kind of a religious trauma theme kidnapping movie where these two little Mormon girls are going door to door trying to convert people, and they end up knocking on the door of a man who only seeks to do them harm. He doesn't just kidnap them and lock them in the basement though. He puts them through trials and tribulations based on their beliefs. And I kind of felt so-so about this movie. I really liked some parts of it, but then other parts I thought directly undermined the messaging. It was kind of back and forth for me, and I didn't love the ending, but I thought it was compelling and I really liked the concept. Those are kind of the things that I'm basing this book recommendation off of, not the plot. So if those kind of themes sound compelling to you, I highly recommend At Dark, I Become Loathsome by Eric LaRocca. In this book, we are following a man who is drowning in his own grief and trauma. He doesn't know how to cope with himself, the loss of his family, or religion and faith in the context of what he's experienced after his most precious people have been taken from him. The only way he knows how to cope is by trawling the internet and offering people his services, which really reminded me of the evil character in Heretic. Because he has this agenda and he thinks that he's so right and he's so condescending about it, but it's clearly coming from a place of so much unresolved pain. And there's so much discussion of religious trauma in here. Very similar to the movie. It's very dark, similar to the movie. It's a little bit gory, similar to the movie. But overall, I loved At Dark I Become Loathsome so much more because the commentary was tight. It never contradicted itself the way the movie sometimes did. And the ending was phenomenal. I was highlighting so much in here, not in this copy because this is the finished copy, but in my ARC copy when I read it, oh my god, I was highlighting the house down boots. I am so obsessed with the way Eric LaRocca interweaves such stunning, well thought out commentary with some horrifyingly deep prose that just stabs you in the gut with its horror. Like, I love it. I love this book. I love it. It just came out, so please go get it. Please go get it. Please go get it. Please go get it. I don't care if you like the movie or not. Just buy this book and read it. You will love it. So with that, those are all of my if you like this movie, then you should read this book recommendations. I hope you guys enjoyed them. If you want 4 more recommendations, they will be up on Patreon. They should be up right now. And again, that link is always below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and you got some good recommendations, both for books and for movies. Let me know if you ever want to see more horror movie content. I love horror movies so much and I would love to talk about it with you guys who do too. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you again so much for watching, and don't forget to go to therapy and read a book this week. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!